Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. I'm Athena, and I would like to tell you a little bit about the reference to the Apple Nun and where the title comes from. So, and I couldn't understand anything Joachim was saying, so please excuse me if I repeat things. So the Apple Nun is taken from is a reference to a story that I was reading from my grandfather's autobiography. He wrote an autobiography about 10 years ago. He's 94 now, and he doesn't remember so well, but it's all about the war and which he participated in, and talks about his time spent in the village in Greece. And there was one photograph of a very beautiful woman who I asked, who I didn't recognize, and I asked, who is this woman? And he said, this is my cousin, so she would be a great aunt of mine, and her name was Magdalene. So they said there's an interesting story about her, actually, and it's that she was sort of the most beautiful woman in the village, and all of the men were sort of chasing after her, but she actually wanted to be a nun. So she took a vow of celibacy and went to work on this nunnery in Greece. And her job in the nunnery was during the harvest season to pick apples from the apple trees. So one instance when she was picking these apples, she was up on a ladder and she actually fell, and she fell so badly that she became crippled. So she was put in a wheelchair and was sort of useless to her position in the nunnery. So she was actually exiled from the nunnery. She was kicked off of the nunnery and had to go back to the village, where she sort of resumed her previous existence, which she was sort of denying before. So in a way, I really liked this idea I call her the Apple Nun. She wasn't called that, but I gave her that name, and in reference to the fall of Adam and Eve and the kind of self-consciousness or consciousness that human beings acquired through not following the Word of God. So within the book, there's 5 songs. The book that I made here, which is like a kind of reference to the Bible, but it's the Bible that these figures, that these characters abide by. And they are there's 5 songs that I made that are 5 narratives, 5 poems that are then sang by each. There are 5 sculptures here, so each sculpture that I see as a sort of figure, character from the story is singing one of the songs. So that's how they sort of come to life, and they become somewhat of an orchestra or a choir. And then we have the apple tree as well, which Joachim talked about, I think. Another thing I wanted to mention was the edition that I made, which is generously supporting this exhibition and the production of all of these new works, which were made particular to this context, all brand new. And so with the chicken, I called it The Hardest Harvest. And I liked that title because I think for this exhibition, in a way, I was thinking about my great aunt during the harvest. That must have been the hardest for her because she became crippled and her whole life changed. But I was thinking about it in reference to my own situation, which is, making this work. I made all of this work in 2 months, and so it felt like the hardest harvest that I've ever had to produce. So the chickens are a sort of moniker of that, and they are. So I really saw the space as a sort of like secret garden, and it felt very much like a New York in autumn, where all of the leaves are different colors, and also in Toronto, where I'm from, it reminded me of that, so I felt quite nostalgic, and so the chicken is like I also thought about the chicken as Adam, who's sort of like the sitting duck. You know, he follows the word of Eve, and doing so, he becomes somewhat of a sitting duck. And I liked the kind of how there things like the kind of duck hunt, which is quite a British thing during the fall. They hunt. So the duck, the chicken, it could be either. Take your pick. And it is Adam, but it is also it's the meal, the amuse-bouche for all of you. So thank you very much. And I also would like to thank everyone on the board of Liebaert Projects and Joachim for an amazing experience, Rita and Levin for being fantastic hosts, and Christoph for printing this wonderful newspaper reproduction that has been such a bedrock that ties the exhibition together. So thank you so much.